The difference between a good recruiter and a great recruiter in a candidate's or a prospect or a client's eyes is usually your level of standard of communication. If you want to come across incredibly well with your candidates and your clients and your prospects, your level of communication is usually what differentiates you from other people. We all get into a situation where like, oh yeah, I'm not going to respond to that, or I'll delete that email. What I would like to see in order for your standards to be higher around this, and we can all do to improve, is to be the last person to communicate on everything. So if a client sends you an email that says, thanks, you've put no problem, have a great day. Something along the lines of communication. If a candidate applies for a job and they're not right, instead of leaving them or deleting them, you drop them the template email back, which says, you're not right. Okay? Instead of a candidate not hearing from you, you update them. If a candidate drops you an email and says, have we got an update on this? Have we got an update on this situation? That is a good indication that you've not given enough communication. And I'm not sitting here going, this never happens to me, because it does. Right? But it's just about that level of standard of how you're operating. And now with a prospect and a client, prospect being somebody who we're currently not working with, client being somebody we are, the level of communication has to be exceptional. And I've used this analogy previously, but if you walk into, and I'll use two analogies here, if you walk into a very high-end clothes shop versus Primark, you get a completely different level of experience, or at least you should. If you walk down and you go to, is it Victoria Quarter, and I don't know if Louis Vuitton's on there, but if you walk into Louis Vuitton, the experience versus walking into New Look, if that still exists, is a completely different experience. The difference between walking into a Nando's and walking into a really, really high-end restaurant, which I can't think of the name of. I'll go with someone recently hired, but Grantley Hall, the level of operation is completely different. If you go to a craft house, the level of operation is completely different. Of that level of communication with you, engagement with you. You know, I think Next at one point had a greeter in the front. I know Walmart do it, but Next had a greeter. Someone just stood at the front, just welcoming you into the store. You would never get that in Primark. Unless somebody's going to tell me that Primark can now start doing that. But I'm not saying the Next is high end. I'm saying Next is probably middle of the range. But if you want to have that level of service, if you walk into a shop, and Omo's just bought some sofas, and that sofa was, the bottom range of that sofa was £20,000, I'm sure a shop like that exists, then you are going to get a completely different level of services. The bottom range of that sofa is 150 quid. Okay, so it's that level of going up the grades from where you're at to being at that kind of level of communication. So instead of, if we're emailing multiple people, we put everybody's name at the top of the email. We don't just go hi all, because it's lazy. Right? You put the most senior person first. You think about who's in your hierarchy and who would want their name first. It's the small things. If you spoke to the client before and you've spoken about it, like, I know one of my clients, Chris, has 2 daughters. Even if he doesn't respond to me, I know that his weekends are spent taxiing. So if I speak to him on a Friday or I email him on a Friday, then my last email to him will be, hope you're not paying taxi this weekend, hope your kids are enjoying, I'm sure your kids will be playing soccer. But that level of communication is incredibly important when it comes to clients and prospects. Your over-communication, your over-talk with anyone is incredibly differentiating for you, because you as a recruiter, unless you get a good candidate, you are fucking no comparison to anybody. And when I see these, testimonials and things that go up on LinkedIn from loads of firms, and some which I know, and some of them are actually terrible recruiters. The only reason I know they're getting one is because they found a candidate in their job, and therefore they did communicate with them to a certain degree. They did have a conversation with them to a certain degree, but they got another job, so they think they're tremendous. Now, what you want is for any client to give you feedback, which I know we've had. I used Halima recently. Halima didn't get a candidate for a job, and the client emailed back and said, I'm gutted that it wasn't you that found the profile. That is the level of communication you want with your client and your prospects to ensure that they feel like, right, yeah, this is amazing. And if you don't get that at a restaurant, then go to a different restaurant next time and get that level of service and experience how that makes you feel. The food doesn't even have to be as good. But if the level of service, the level of greeting, and the fluidity of how you greeted, how you transition through, and there's a recommendation potentially from the waiter, etc., etc. Right? I'll give you one example of a way to make somebody feel incredibly special. So, albeit it was about 4 years ago, the last time I went shopping with Luz. But took Luz shopping. We went to John Lewis, and we went up to the shoe part. And Luce had bought her wedding shoes from this guy. I have no idea what they are, but Luce bought wedding shoes from him, sorry. And he walked, and as soon as she walked in, the guy went, "Welcome back, it's great to see you again. I remember you bought those X shoes." And we're talking a year, at least a year apart. And he went, "They were absolutely beautiful. How was your wedding day?" Such a huge amount of time has lapsed between that conversation, but that person's remembered that transaction, maybe because he really liked them shoes, maybe because of something else, I don't know. But that level, and I was like, I wanted to buy from this guy. And he wasn't even talking to me, he was talking to Liz, but he was like, right, I really want to, that's phenomenal. Okay, so that level and bringing that into your game of familiarity, of heavy communication, of making your client, making your candidate, making your prospect feel incredibly special is so damn important.